Hey guys, welcome back to the EcoRangers Club. I'm sorry we couldn't meet last week, but that snow was really nice, wasn't it? Speaking of snow, this week and next week, we're going to be talking about the backyard birds of winter. Now, I know you guys, all the birds I'm going to be talking about, I know you can see them now, and you've probably been wondering what they're called. Well, we're going to learn that today. We're going to go through about 6 of them today, and then we're going to go through about 4 of them next time. Just want to make sure you guys are still going into iNaturalist and logging all of your finds. And I hope you're keeping up with your nature journals, because really it's not for me, it's for you. And it'll help you to, if you go back in it a little bit and say, oh, look, back last year, I saw 5 squirrels in my yard. Well, this year, the same time, I'm seeing 9. You'll be able to figure out what that means if you have all that data there. So keep being good scientists and stewards of our environment, okay? All right, so if Miss Shauna will start the slideshow, we're gonna start talking about backyard birds of winter. Okay, all righty guys. We've got this first slide right up here and everybody can see all these birds, and I know you guys have seen these guys, right? But I'm gonna tell you what they are. That first one right at the top, that cute little guy up there with a little bitty beak, that is called a tufted titmouse. If you're following along the screen on the top row right in the middle, that guy is a white-breasted nuthatch. Keep going right. That guy is a Carolina wren. Okay, go down to the next row. I know everybody knows what that bird is. That is a Carolina chickadee. The birds right in the middle of your screen are house finches. And then I hope you guys all know what the ones are on the far right over there, the blue and the red one. That's a blue jay and a cardinal. And down at the bottom, we have 3 different woodpeckers. They all kind of look the same, so we'll go over those. The first one is a downy woodpecker. The one in the middle is a hairy woodpecker. And the one at the end is a red cockaded woodpecker. But we'll go over all of these in detail. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. And we're going to talk about this cute little guy called a tufted titmouse. He's one of my favorites because he's so cute. All right, so as you can see from the slide, these guys have really big black eyes. Okay, if you look at the pictures, you can see how big and black their eyes are. It just looks like it's a big black dot. They've got a small round bill, and by round, it means the top is a little rounded. They've got a bushy crest. You see that little fuzzy thing that's sticking up on his head? That's the crest. They're gray above and white on their belly, and then they're peach on the sides. These guys are pretty easy to ID. They like to be on the outer branches of tree canopies in deciduous woods. Y'all look that word up. I know you know what it means. We've talked about it. Parks and backyards. So pretty much they're all over the place, okay? They like to nest in tree holes and nest boxes, and they can't excavate their own nest cavities. Excavate, that's a pretty big word, isn't it? Okay, excavate means to dig something out. So these guys can't do it. Their beaks are a little too small and the trees are too hard. So what they do is when a woodpecker beats town, he gets out of there, these guys will take over their nests. Okay, they really like it in there. So that brings me to the next question. Should you leave dead trees in your yard? Definitely. Why? Woodpeckers like to nest in dead trees, and where you've got woodpeckers nesting, you'll have a bunch of these guys, okay? They also line the inner cup, and the inner cup would be, if you have the nest, the inner cup would be in the section, in the middle. The inner cup of their nest is lined with hair, and sometimes they pull it directly from animals that are still alive. So in other words, your dog may be trotting around in the backyard, and all of a sudden you hear him go, ow! That's because one of these birds has landed on them and pulled out some hair. But a lot of hair that they use are raccoons, possums, mice, woodchucks, squirrels, rabbits, livestock, meaning horses, deer, pets, and believe it or not, sometimes they may even try to snatch some human hair. Now, they're not going to chase you around or anything, but if they see an opportunity, they'll take it. They do love to hoard food in the fall and winter. Why? Think about it. What's not around in the wintertime? food for these guys. So they'll hoard as much as they can because they're still flitting about, but they do take advantage of bird feeders. And what they'll do, you'll see them, they'll go into your feeder and they'll just kick out a bunch of stuff and they'll fly away and they'll come back. They're hoarding those seeds. They're hiding them for later in their nest, okay? And they usually keep it within about 130 feet of the feeder. So if you were determined, you could find it, but if you do, don't, because you're taking away these guys' dinner, all right? They do shell the seeds before they hide them. So they'll pop the shells off and then they'll hide the seeds, which I think is pretty cool because then they can grab a snack on the go, right? All right, well, if Miss Shauna would please play that last link, we're going to hear what a tufted titmouse sounds like, and then I'm going to help you try to remember that sound. Whatever the first one is on there, you may have a picture of it. Okay, we're getting there. Okay, I know you guys have heard that, right? Now, we're going to do some sound-alikes to try to remember that sound. What does it sound like he's saying? To me, it sounds like he's saying, Peter, Peter. Anytime you hear something in your yard that's going, Peter, Peter, look around for one of these guys. I'll guarantee you'll find one. Okay. All right, and you may want to write that in your nature journal. Tufted titmouse sounds like Peter, Peter. All right, so let's go to the next bird. The next bird we've got here, guys, is called a white-breasted nuthatch. This is also another one of my favorite birds. They're gray-blue on the back, frosty white on their face and their upper belly, and they have a black hood. If you look at that first picture on the left of your screen, you can see that black hood on top of them. Okay, and their lower belly right under the tail is often a chestnut color. If you go over to the picture all the way on the right, you'll see that little bit of brown on them. Okay, what's really cool about these birds, they walk face down trees. So if you ever see a bird walking face down, this could be one of them. They have this weird ability to just walk straight down the tree. They have a small or a large head. They're a small bird with a large head, but they don't have any neck. And if you look at those pictures, you really can't see a neck in there, okay? Their tail is very short and they have a very long, narrow bill. If you look in that first picture, you can see how long it is. So it's a big difference from the tufted titmouse, all right? Their habitat, mature woods, woodland areas, large trees, parks, suburbs, blah, 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 coniferous forests. I know you know what coniferous means too. Look it up. So they're basically all over the place too. They just like to be everywhere. They do nest in natural tree cavities and once again, those abandoned woodpecker holes. Sometimes they'll make the holes a little bigger, but like the other smaller bird, they really can't excavate anything. They can't pull anything out of there. They do use nest boxes when they nest, but they can nest in natural tree cavities, once again, abandoned woodpecker holes. They line the nest with fur, shredded bark, and feathers. They like soft things. Give you a little tip in the wintertime. You know how when your mom does the drying in the dryer and she'll empty out the lint screen? That lint you find in the lint screen, put it in a ball and put it outside by your bird feeder, and I'll guarantee you'll see birds picking at it to line their nests to stay warm. So you'll be recycling your lint and helping out one of your little friends in the yard. Their diet, they are insectivores. What does an insectivore eat? Think about it. Insects, right? They do eat insects. They eat beetles, larvae, ants, caterpillars, and they eat one of my most hated bugs on the planet. They eat stink bugs. They love stink bugs. They'll also eat seeds and nuts, acorns and corn. At your feeder, they like suet, sunflower seeds, peanuts, and peanut butter. So if you put out a suet feeder, they'll come to that too. If Miss Shauna would play the call for me, and I'll have something to help you remember that one too. Okay, did you hear that? Yank, yank. Okay, think of the word yank. Yank, yank, yank. That's a tufted, or that's a white-breasted nuthatch. And I also wanted to point out, guys, the picture in the middle, that's a female. The two guys on either side of her are males. Females are usually in the bird world not quite as pretty and colorful as the males, because the males are the ones that are trying to catch the females and catch their eye. It's not the other way around. So that's why the females you see are usually a little kind of duller in color. Okay, well, let's go to the next slide. I know everybody's seen one of these. I have these yelling at me all the time. This is a Carolina Wren. Okay, this little guy is small and chunky. They're kind of chonky looking, got a round body and a long tail that usually tilts up when he's sitting. They have a large head, little to no neck, long bill, and it's down curved. If you look at that first picture on the slide on the left, you'll see how his bill kind of curves a little bit. Okay, he also has a bright reddish brown above, warm buff below coloring. And if you look at the picture in the middle, you see a long white, what looks like an eyebrow going over his eye. That'll give you a great, yep, that's a Carolina Wren. They love to live in the same places the other two birds did. Dense vegetation in wooded areas, forest ravines, neighborhoods, brush piles, areas that have lots of vines and bushes. Why would they want to live in a place that has lots of vines and bushes, do you think? That's right, to hide from predators and to protect their young. So yeah, they need a lot of cover. They like that. Their diet, they're also an insectivore. They eat insects and spiders, okay? Common things, they'll eat leafhoppers, beetles, grasshoppers. They like cockroaches. So these are good birds to have around. They'll also eat fruits and seeds. And one of the best things about these guys is they eat poison ivy. Yay! Okay. When they nest in open cavities, meaning an open area about 3 to 6 feet off the ground, in trees, overhangs, and stumps, okay? I have found them around my yard, in flower pots, right next to my front door, mailboxes, old coat pockets they can be found in if you leave a coat out for too long, and if you leave your shoes on the porch, they may make a nest in there. These guys are really comfortable around people. But if you get too close to their nest, they will yell at you. And I'm going to have Miss Shauna play that sound so you can hear what that sounds like. I know you've heard it. Okay, so what did it sound like he was saying? To me, it sounds like he's saying, Germany, 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 Germany. Here, just remember that sound. Remember the tufted titmouse went, Peter, Peter. The last bird, what was that last bird? The last bird, the white-breasted nuthatch, went yank, yank, yank. And this guy goes, Germany, Germany, Germany. If you remember those words that go with the sounds, you'll be able to identify these birds. Now, this bird does have another call, and it's more of a, you'll know this one if you get too close to his nest, because these birds will start to yell and fly about, try to chase you off. All right, so let's go to our second to last bird. This is a Carolina chickadee. I know you guys have seen these. They've got a tiny head with a short neck again. Giving it has a very distinctive round body shape. Chickadees look very round to me, and their tail is fairly long, but it's real narrow. The thing that distinguishes a Carolina chickadee is they have that black hooded cap on their head. Look at all three pictures, and you'll see that cap up there. And then they have a little bit at the bottom, and right in the middle, they've got a triangle of white. That's a chickadee, 100%. Their back, their tail, and the wings are soft gray, but mainly to identify these guys, look at their head, okay? They do like deciduous, mixed deciduous, coniferous, woodlands, swamps, riparian areas. Now, we've never talked about a riparian area, have we? Let me tell you what that is. A riparian area is, you know, when you're walking on the creek and you've got the banks that go up on either side, those banks are considered riparian zones. So if there's any kind of trees growing out of it or anything, you can find Carolina chickadees there along streams. They also like parks, suburban areas. These guys are all over the place too. In winter, they prefer to eat animal matter and plant matter. And the animal matter would be insects. I mean, they're not going to go chasing down a deer or anything. These guys eat insects, spiders. They also can hang upside down from a tree and they'll chew on bark. So it has to be kind of new though. And they will eat, if there's any foliage left on the trees, they'll munch on that for a while. The rest of the year, they eat insects. They're big insect eaters. They love to eat mosquitoes. So these guys are good to have around too. They will hold their food in their feet and they'll peck at it. So if you see a chickadee sitting on a branch and he's kind of looks like he's doing something weird, you keep poking at his feet, he's eating something. They do use feeders. You'll see them at feeders all the time. And I love this one, sound, and you're going to like the device to remember it. So if Miss Shauna would play the sound. Okay, what that sounds like is I will kiss you. I will kiss you. Just remember those. And if you remember those, you're going to impress your friends when you're out and you hear that and you can go, oh, well, that's a Carolina chickadee. They also make another noise that sounds like their name. They'll go chickadee dee 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 dee, chickadee dee 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 dee. So both of those distinguish Carolina chickadee. I will kiss you and chickadee dee dee dee. You know you got a chickadee on your hands. All right, so if we'll go for the last slide for today, these guys are house finches. These are all over the place. Small bodied. They've got a pretty large, short beak. That's good for cracking things. And they've got long, flat heads. Their wings are short, which makes their tail seem pretty long. And they've got a very shallow notch in their tail. The best way to ID these guys, though, is by color. The males are they've always got that rosy red around their face. Not as red as a cardinal. This is more of like if somebody kind of sprinkled red on it. That's more of what the red is on them. And then they have a streaky brown back and belly and tail. Now the female, and she's the one in the middle picture, and on the last picture, you can see the male and the female right next to each other. Female's just gonna kind of look like just a gray, plainish brown gray, or plainish gray bird. She will be around the red finches though. So you'll know it's a female if she's hanging around with one of them, okay? She is an herbivore, or they are herbivores. You remember what an herbivore is? Think of the word herb, okay? They like to eat plant matter, all right? They like seeds, they like lots of fruits, and they also eat poison ivy. These guys like the same as all the other birds. That's why you see them so much. City parks, backyards, urban centers, farms, forest edges. In nesting, they like deciduous coniferous trees, rock ledges, buildings. They like to use vents, street lamps, ivy, hanging planters. They'll use abandoned nests of other birds, okay? These guys are opportunists, so they will go to the easiest place they can. This is another bird that you're also gonna find on your porch, making nests in your shoes, probably in your garage or your shed. They're very people friendly as well, and they don't yell at you as much as the Carolina wren does. These guys are a little more mellow. I do not have a sound for this guy. They pretty much sound like a sparrow, which is kind of hard to distinguish them. A lot of whistling and just a lot of melodic little sounds.
I've got a sample, right?
You do? No, I don't. You do? I didn't think you did. Oh, it's not on my slide. If you have a sample, please go ahead and play it for me. I'm sorry. I didn't think Miss Shauna had a sample. I didn't think I put one up. Oh, there it is. Duh. We have a sample, folks. It's been a long day.
All right.
There you go. The best way to pick out their sound, because you can't really put words to that one because it's a lot of twittering, but they'll have right at the end of their song that kind of raspy little sound, but they whistle a lot. It's not like I said, it's not a very distinct call, because another bird that sounds like this that's not around right now are goldfinch. And goldfinches and house finches, because they're from the finch family, they'll sound similar. But house finches, you'll see them all over the place. They're easy to spot. All right, so we are at the end of the club meeting today. But what I want you guys to do for me for next time, take your binoculars, go outside. If you have a bird feeder, you can even sit in your house and look for these guys. But go outside, just stay in your yard and see if you can see any of them, and if you can hear any of their calls. And if you can hear their calls, identify them by the call and then see them, you get bonus points, because that's really cool. All right, well, thanks for joining us. I hope to see you all again next week, where we will be back on our regular live Zoom schedule. And you all have a good weekend. Go out and find some birds, and don't forget to go to iNaturalist. Thanks for coming. See y'all later.